welcome to the September 2015 Gaia update. I'm Adrienne Elise. Well, September 2015 continues in the pattern of 2015 in general, with just a whole bunch of stuff happening. It's a little overwhelming to think about. We're just coming off of this Venus retrograde, most of us reeling this Venus retrograde in Leo, and that's over on September 6th. But Leo, or Venus, does not come out of its shadow period, which means it's back to where it was before it started retrograde at 0 degrees Virgo. Very significant, I think. Virgo, the Virgin, the goddess represented there in that sign, and Venus starting her retrograde right there at the beginning. This is indeed a rebirth of the goddess. What happens when Venus goes retrograde is at around the middle of August, Venus was no longer visible in the evening sky, and then has dropped below the horizon, so we haven't been able to see her. Now she's going to reemerge as a morning star, and it won't be until June 2016 of next year that she's again visible as an evening star. So this is really a goddess rebirth. This is really a rebirth of the divine feminine on the planet and in each of us. And of course, it's really about, if we're going to invite the goddess back into our lives, then what does that mean? How do we treat the goddess? And so there's some reconciling that needs to happen between the male and the female parts of ourselves. And these archetypes are playing out so much because we've had this year in 2015 we have 3 Venus-Mars conjunctions. So that's the female part of us, the male part of us, trying to come into some sort of harmonious resolution as we move into the future, as we move into heart-centered consciousness, of oneness consciousness, and out of duality consciousness. We have to reconcile these archetypes, and part of that is reclaiming the goddess, the dark goddess that has the part of us that's been cast aside, perhaps the creative part of us, perhaps the sexual part of us, perhaps the emotional part of us, the part of the feminine that has been belittled and disgraced and discarded by all of us. And so if we invite that back into our life, which this Venus retrograde in Leo is asking us to consider, then we have to decide how we're going to treat this goddess. We have to create fertile ground. We have to allow a good support system for this change to happen. And that's reconciling the divine masculine. Now, Mars this year, our masculine planet, has no retrograde, so it's just full bore ahead. Right now, still in Leo there with Venus until the end of the month, when around the 24th, when it goes into Virgo. And so we're just reeling off of this Venus retrograde, trying to figure out what's going on here. It's a heart chakra activation. Leo rules the heart, the sun, the identity, expression. So Venus in Leo wants to express love, but in retrograde, it's trying to figure out what it really wants and needs. What do we really want and need in our relationships? Of course, this is going to bring up for review all the stuff from the past. And as Venus turns direct, this first couple weeks of September, really intense vulnerabilities coming up, because when you start to move that energy again, if you're going to take the cog out of the gear of the heart chakra, then there might be some mudslinging that happens, and this can be in the form of old relationships coming up, old issues from old relationships represented in a new relationship. But anyway, you caught it, pretty much our core shit's on the table. But it's about getting to this place where we can really respect and love ourselves and give ourselves what we really need. And that is this reclaiming of the goddess, reclaiming of the feminine on the planet, of the balance between the male and female within us, and beautifully demonstrated by these Mars and Venus conjunctions. So the second Mars and Venus conjunction of 2015 happened on September 1st. And so it's an interesting one, because it's like there wants to be harmony between the sexes. There wants to be harmony between the male and the female archetype. But with Venus retrograde, it's kind of going to the places of injury between these sexes. And so some tension coming up, especially in Leo. Leo is just such a powerful, fiery, energetic sign, really is quite a fire activation. So we're really feeling the effects now of that Venus turning direct, and it's going to feel really good in a lot of ways. It's been all the way, it's a 6-week cycle, so since the end of July, and it really has flavored the whole summer. And so now we're really feeling that seasons change. We also have 2 eclipses this month, and 10 days after Venus goes direct, Mercury starts a retrograde cycle. And so there's the shadow period of time between the retrograde cycles, when before and after. And so these shadow periods of these 2 retrograde retrograde cycles are overlapping. And so it's kind of hard because these are our personal planets, and when they're in retrograde, we don't feel like we can really make decisions or make big plans or get anything done. It just feels like things are a little bit suspended in time. So this feeling is going to continue. I don't think we're really going to come out of it too much, depending on how your chart, how these retrogrades affect you. The Mercury retrograde is in Libra. So in the Mercury retrograde in Libra, sandwiched between, the cycle starts between the two. We have two eclipses this month, and eclipses are about what needs to be revealed, what we've missed, what is coming to deeper understanding. And indeed, powerful aspects with Jupiter opposing Neptune Jupiter opposing Neptune. We're feeling this pretty much the whole month. And Jupiter wants to expand. It's just newly in Virgo. It's a beautiful placement because Virgo wants to clean things up. Virgo wants to redeem the dark goddess. Virgo wants to be pure in the being and build new. It's an earth sign, but it's also a mutable earth sign. So flexible, which is exactly the energy we need right now, because we really want to start building new structures in our life. Tons of Pluto aspects this month. Pluto, just like in Capricorn, we are seeing the effects of the breakdown of the structures. We've been doing a lot of internal work with Pluto retrograde ever since just after the spring eclipses. So Pluto is tying together these eclipse cycles. The spring eclipses, March and April, and then Pluto went retrograde. And this month, just in between the two retrograde cycles, the two eclipses, Mercury goes retrograde and Pluto goes direct. So when Pluto goes direct, I think we're going to feel really this push on the outward part of our being, our outward life, the ramifications of the inner work that we've been doing. It's been an intense couple of years of astrology, and with Uranus and Aries, and there's a harmonious trine with Uranus and Aries this month with Venus. Really beautiful energy. So the goddess is coming into alignment and resonant energy with our revolution of our identity. Uranus and Aries is really powerful. And also with Mercury in Libra, it's opposing that Uranus and Aries. And so we're really having this cardinal axis of Libra and Aries, the individual and partnerships and working together, cooperation, and the individual spark of self. That balance is really coming to play in this month. And but with that Venus, the goddess, trining Uranus, it's saying, okay, welcoming the goddess back into our life is part of this identity revolution that we're going through. Humanity, it's happening. We can only hold on to the old paradigm so long. It's a broken down building. And so Pluto going direct is saying, okay, you guys, time to get these wheels turning. Jupiter in Virgo, let's build something. Let's start building. Let's think about what we're going to replace this old structure with, because it's literally falling apart. And so what are we going to build? And so it's that great energy of Virgo being like, let's clean it up. Let's be honest with ourselves with this coming out of illusion with that Jupiter. So Jupiter wants to expand into the new possibilities, building new possibilities in our future and right now of this new world we want to create that's in alignment with our spiritual identity, alignment with our spiritual seeking. This is really powerful because another shift that happens this month is Saturn, who's been in Scorpio for so long, had a little stint in Sagittarius, but now it's going to be in Sagittarius for close to 2 years. And so it's a huge shift because Saturn is our work and duty, and that's making our work and duty of spiritual seeking. Now Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so Jupiter in Virgo is saying, okay, let's clean up our act. Let's build something new, but in a way that can be flexible to our changing identity, because we are changing so fast. We are getting massive upgrades on the planet right now. Energetic shifts are off the charts. And so this can lead to a lot of symptoms. It's really important to get plenty of rest, drink lots of water, and be near running water. To allow all of this emotional energy. It's in the individual, it's in the collective, but this Venus retrograde is just kind of digging it out, cleaning out those places that we have shut down inside, and being like, bust out. But you know, when you bust out and you change and you move that energy that's been stuck for so long, it can be kind of a little bit of a mess. There can be some shrapnel involved. And so this next time is about kind of cleaning that up. And this fall is just so powerful to get clarity. Now, I wouldn't expect that clarity and feeling like you really want to move forward and in what you want to do and your big changes in your life until October. The shadow of the Mercury retrograde isn't over until later in October. And so I believe that basically we're just kind of feeling this Venus retrograde, that suspended in time feeling. I don't know what's really going on except for deep emotional confusion. And then it's kind of like that's going to lift a little bit in forward motion, but then Mercury goes retrograde. Now, Mercury's more about our understanding and clarity, and that's exactly the theme of the eclipses. And so we have our first eclipse on the 13th. That's the new moon solar eclipse, very powerful, and that is in Virgo. So it's about this new start, building new flexible structures that can adjust to our new identity, that can reclaim the goddess, that can clean up our psyche and come out of that shadow and accept and love ourselves just how we are and be able to care for that goddess returning and allow and educate the divine masculine, the masculine within us, to care for that goddess, to create sacred space for us to become whole again. And so what does this mean in our lives? We're going to start to see this after the eclipse cycle and the Mercury retrograde, but right now it feels really confusing. So that new moon on the 13th, really powerful solar eclipse in Virgo, this new start into building new structures. And the sun and the moon are together, of course, in Virgo there, and they're opposing Chiron in Pisces. So really powerful energy about healing the wounds of the past. And of course, on the heels of this Venus retrograde in Leo, the heart chakra activation, it's about how do we cling to these stories of woundedness and pain and keep creating them. Humanity, we're stuck in a cycle, and it's so evident in our individual lives. And you know, it's really hard when you can watch yourself fall back into the patterns that you know are so destructive, and just in the relationships or the addictions or the different situations. And you know, it's kind of like a feeling of being out of control and not being able to be in your own autonomy. You know, in this Leo, this Venus retrograde in Leo is really about clearing out those places, the nitty-gritty of the self-judgment, and finding that self-compassion, finding your ability to love yourself through it. And that means getting into those painful places. And so just good job making it through the Venus retrograde, and these next few weeks are just going to kind of be the fallout. We've got that Mercury going retrograde at its direct on the 10th or the 9th of October, and it's not until the middle of October that we have that shift of Venus moving back into Virgo, which will be really powerful, understanding more about this goddess rebirth, this reclaiming all the parts of the feminine and honoring deeply these parts of ourselves so that we can be whole again as a culture. And so it's pretty intense energy. There's 2 times this month Mercury comes into a square with Pluto, and then Pluto goes direct as Mercury's going retrograde. And so it's really powerful energy. These planets are speaking to each other. They're coming into the square. Now Mercury wants to understand the messenger, get some clarity, and then Pluto, of course, it's the dissolution, the breakdown of our structures that we so sorely need to be able to build something new. And so indeed, this Mercury retrograde cycle in Libra is about seeing both sides of the story, bringing justice, forgiveness, love, compassion, understanding, activating that goddess. Venus is a sign of the goddess as well, Libra is a sign of the goddess as well, ruled by Venus. And so really powerful energy, and of course, opposing that who are we in this new age, that Uranus and Aries, this revolution of the identity. And the Mercury retrograde in Libra is saying, yeah, we got to balance We got to balance both sides. We've got to love each other through this. We've got to see how we all play out these patterns. We all play out these archetypes, and we can just help each other and stop judging and stop wounding and stop being addicted to the pain. And that is a lot about that new moon eclipse in Virgo opposing Chiron in Pisces. It's kind of like just breaking these patterns. This is the year 2015 that Chiron gets reimagined as we bring the goddess back into our life. Chiron, the wounded healer, becomes the healing wounded, the no longer wounded healer. and so bringing joy back into our lives as we let go of these painful patterns. So really, really powerful. Pay close attention. The full moon's on the 27th. That is really powerful because it's opposing the North Node there in Libra. And so the moon, so the sun and the North Node are together, and then the moon is across in Aries. So the sun and the North Node in Libra, that's like our future karma, where we're headed. What are we doing? What is this all about? Just really directed our identity, who we call ourselves, our sun, how we want to shine, has to do with this new way forward of collaboration between the opposites, between the sexes. So Libra leading us the way towards internal justice. And so really powerful energy with that Mercury retrograde conjunct the North Node, opposing this moon in. Now, not only that, but this full moon is also conjunct Vesta, and Vesta is the goddess of the fire, the sacred fire within, and we're definitely getting fire activation and earth activation this month. So it's about continuing our transformation, especially the heart chakra, but also starting to kind of till the soil for a new foundation, for new structures. And of course, welcoming the goddess back in and making sure that there's room for her in our new house, making sure that she feels safe there. You know, that there's a sacred temple in what we're building that can allow the beautiful divine feminine to feel safe and be there and feel protected and held and honored by the divine masculine within us. So much intense, powerful work happening, digging into the wounds of the past, coming out of illusion with those Neptune aspects, fire activation, earth activation, becoming totally clear with 2 eclipse cycles, Pluto turning direct. Let's build something new that fits better our new identity, and that's what it's all about. So I hope you have a wonderful journey on that note. And so until next time, I wish you well. I'm Adrienne Elise with the Gaia Update. Namaste.